Welcome everybody. In this video we're going to cover the template method design pattern. The pattern itself aims to define an algorithm template, hence the template method, where the steps of the algorithm can be substituted by inheritance. The template method itself is a blueprint. The classes that inherit from the original class have the ability to substitute the steps in the blueprint, kind of like a burger. We all understand the basic burger. However, now we'll have the template method for building the burger, and we can subclass the burger class to change it from a regular burger, perhaps overriding or extending the steps between the burger and the top bun to put some cheese on there, making a cheeseburger, maybe swapping the sauce on the bottom bun function. The idea here is that the algorithm, the blueprint, will always provide the same shape. Derivatives of that class will be able to alter the ingredients in that shape. Don't forget, if you're enjoying these videos, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and leave your questions in the comment section. Let's dig into this. Now, the template method pattern is very simple. You have probably already used it as well, and it's basically anytime you're using any abstract classes or any sort of inheritance, template method is probably used there by default. So I'm probably going to be restating what you already know. Here we have a template method, like start. It executes some steps. Now we want to variate this process, where we can create one variation where we override step one. So if we do go to execute that variation, only step one will be changed. In variation number 2, step 3 changes. In variation 3, 2 steps change. Hopefully you get the idea. Bottom bun, burger, top bun. Here we override the bottom bun to have the sauce on it, whatever mustard. Here the 3, you can put the sauce on the top bun, or you can put a piece of cheese, and when you put it back on the hamburger, because it is hot, it will melt it. Or here we can override step number 2 to provide the burger bun to have the cheese on it, and maybe onions if you like those as well, right? And still a little bit of sauce or salad on your bottom bun, right? So don't forget, the template method is the blueprint of the algorithm. It is not the thing that you're overriding. Let's take a look at some of the more common use cases. For example, you have a process where you may need to create some kind of object that you're going to use in this function, and you need to change that object. It is possible to provide it as a parameter. We will talk a little bit about that regarding composition and inheritance. But in this case, we choose to call it an abstract class. We can provide a default implementation here. However, in this example, we do not. We then have 3 variations where the factory method is going to create us a different object. Hopefully, this is pretty self-explanatory, not much to say here. And now to kind of talk a little bit about these methods that are essentially hooks, same as in the first example. You just have a function and you just want to create a hook to do something. Essentially, you're hooking into the algorithm, the default blueprint that you have defined. You want to hook into it. This is your abstract hook. This is your default hook. You can have a default hook and then you can extend it or prepend it. The abstract hook, you basically enforce implementation, right? So if we remove the default hook, you can forget about implementing it, right? It's something you're going to extend it, and you're not going to think about, oh, do I need to implement a default hook? You can forget about it, right? If you use something like abstract, it is impossible to forget about it. You cannot create something without implementing the abstract hook. So when implementing template methods and thinking about when people are going to be implementing variations of these algorithms, do I need to provide the default functionality for them that they may override if they know what they're doing, or do I need to force them to implement certain things? So those are the kind of things that you want to be thinking about. Optional stuff and mandatory stuff. Now let's talk a little bit about what things you may want to avoid when you're doing the template method design pattern. This is pretty much your default view, and if you have too many steps in your functions, you obviously break them out into separate functions, and then if you want to override a step, you inherit from the process, and then you declare a function that you want to override virtual, and then you override the virtual function, right? This is kind of like the place where you start. This is the function that you have, new use case comes in, and now you need to change something. The more naive approach, and sometimes it's nothing wrong with supplying a flag and varying your algorithm based on the flag. However, please do note, whenever you have state involved, your code becomes harder to understand. If you're like, why? Well, looking at this start method, we can see it's ABC gets executed one after the other. Cool. Now, you may think A equals 0, we then execute C, and then we execute D if A is not 0. No big deal. However, now that we have state, it is also an external parameter that is being passed in. You need to know what the external things are doing, what sort of values are going to be passed in here. So now you're not only thinking about the internal possibilities, what kind of states can my component can be in, you're also thinking about what external influence has on my component and what sort of values can be even supplied into here, right? So as soon as you have state involved, it does generally make things a little bit harder to understand, just because you need to hold a little bit more information in your head. And then let's talk a little bit about the process strategy. Again, coming back to the factory, where you could potentially supply things in the method, and this is what we're doing here. So if you watch the strategy pattern video, it is essentially injecting the algorithm into your class wherever you want to use it. And I would say, if you're going to inject a strategy, do not use it to vary your algorithm. You either supply the whole algorithm using the strategy pattern, or you do not try to override a step in the start function by supplying something from the outside. Keep it within the classes which are going to be working on the process and are in the process family. So essentially, if we think about the process, if we supply a strategy, strategy lives somewhere there. If we have a family of processes, so the God process and then the children processes, they're kind of in one place, in one shape, and they're already sort of organized and aggregated in there. If you have this family of processes and now it's being invaded by this strategy that is sort of being injected into here, anytime you come to a process, you then essentially have to come out of this process bubble where things are more or less the same. Think of it as like a mind space. If you're in CSS mind space, you are kind of in the mode of writing CSS, but then you have to go quickly check the back end or some kind of JavaScript in the front end. You're shifting your thinking from this family onto the strategy, same way as if you would be thinking about CSS, and you're shifting your thinking towards a C# or JavaScript. You're just sort of driving in one lane and suddenly you have to like make a U-turn and start driving in a different lane. However, I am going to say that strategy is completely justified if it in no way relates to the family. So let's say we do some kind of operation and then in the end we do need to store a file, because the family is not the only place where we could potentially be storing files. We could be storing it in some other process. We want to be able to reuse this strategy of saving files there as well. Just make sure that you can create a clear distinction which steps belong to your family of processes and which steps do not belong to your family of processes. At that point, I'd say moving out the strategy, in no way does it relate to the actual template method. I would say at that point, even whatever result you're going to get at the end of the start function, you might want to return it, because then you're going to have start and save file. So let's say we want to process a video and save it. The strategy would be saving the file. Your function is process video and save file. Your function is already doing two things. You might want to have your process video return the video of the byte array, and then on the outside have some kind of a class that is going to hold that use case where you need to first process the video, which takes certain steps, and then the result of that gets saved. Anyway, I talked for a little bit too long. Again, a template method pattern, not that complicated, not that difficult. You're probably already using it without knowing it. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Suggestions are always welcome as well. Don't forget to check the description, and have a good day.